Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Cameron Maybin later in the hour on Game 2, Yanks and the Guardians tonight. The Mets and Dodgers tied 1-1, coming back to New York. That more later in the hour. Mike Johnson will join us here in a moment. We've got trades in the NFL. We got the CFL coming down the stretch. You see, it looks like Vernon Adams is going to be playing for the BC Lions because the Lions have been a mess.
Yeah.
And the quarterback situation not looking so great out there. Pretty
Who would have
interesting
predicted
story.
that, man?
I know.
I thought that guy was going to be like the savior showing up and just dominate. I thought he was going to win the MVP.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you consider that he won it and he was still like dealing with that significant injury a couple of years ago where he missed a bunch of weeks, you know, and then Nathan Rourke, he goes down to the NFL. He starts jumping around the league. You think this guy's going to be gone for the next 15 years playing in the NFL. No dice. Re-signs with BC, massive deal over a few years, and he's struggled. Like, he's really played poorly. There's no other way of describing it, to the point where it sounds as if they're going to turn to Vernon Adams, who had that team cooking. He got injured when Rourke returned, but this is spicy meatball, man, because they're hosting the Grey Cup. Now they're going to make the playoffs, but have to go on the road, go through some really tough teams out west to even make it to the Grey Cup Grey Cup back home at BC Place. And,
Dude, I'm glad they did it, Hayes, because I hate teams that don't rip off the Band-Aid and they just keep saying, no, he's our guy and we believe in him. Just like what Cleveland's doing with Deshaun Watson.
Exactly.
He's our quarterback next week. And it's like people are like, are you insane?
That's exactly it. The first question Stefanski got is Deshaun starting, and he just said yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
he said he's our quarterback.
Yeah.
And the follow-up is, how on earth could that guy be your quarterback next week?
He is horrendous how bad he is. Like, statistically, it is awful how bad Deshaun Watson looks.
Do you remember, like, there was a bunch of pause, and Deshaun Watson was trying to, like, kind of recoup his image, and he was taking pics with kids, and everyone's like, we love this guy. They hate that guy.
He is public enemy number one in
Dude,
Cleveland.
if your list was most hated people in sports, he might be, by their own market, might be
there's
number
your
one.
list on Thursday.
That's
Most
my list on Thursday.
Most hated. So villains, maybe to
Villains
soften it.
with
Hated by your own market, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Nick Sirianni in Philly.
Oh, what is that guy up to?
He is,
what is he doing?
what are you doing chirping your own fans?
Yeah.
Like, it is PR 101 when you arrive anywhere.
I get it. I will say this. Those donkey fans can yell obscenities and whatever they want for 5 hours straight, and this guy's got to listen to it. But as soon as he yells something back, he's the jerk, and he's got to apologize for saying it. It is stupid. I get it. It's Philly, and it's pro sports, but they can act like jackasses for 5 hours, and as soon as he turns around and says, suck on that one, he's got to apologize.
Think
about the double standard there, Hayes.
Of course there's a double standard. He's the coach of the team.
He's the coach.
You have no standard.
Yes,
No,
I
but
have
those
standards.
guys have 50 beers in them.
So
Like,
what? They're
don't
paying
sink-
customers
no,
and
I'm saying,
fans.
don't sink to their level. Just
Exactly.
turn around and be like he's in the wrong.
Guys,
The coach can't
Of
hurt.
course Sirianni's in the wrong.
I get it. But they can sit there and yell for 5 hours. Sooner or later, you just want to say, you know what, suck on that one, just like John Gibbons.
Here, suck on that one for tonight, will you?
Doing the, like, I can't hear you ear move when you barely beat the
Dude,
Browns at home is
if you
such a lame move.
That is another concern. They barely beat the Browns. But even if he just went like this, people would say, oh, you're disrespecting the fans.
Right. But
You're
here's
screwed.
I take a bigger issue with what he did after the game, bringing his kids up to the podium. That is such
softening it.
a
That's
gutless maneuver because
using them for props.
they're shields. That's what it was. Well, I don't recall ever seeing coaches do that. It turns out Sirianni's done that in the past, which shocked me. You see players do it sometimes. I don't love that because it's a business setting. People are trying to do work. The media there, they just want to ask you questions about what happened in the game. It should be allowed. It should be a league policy. Your kids are not allowed to come up to the podium. They're not allowed to do that. And for him to do that is so weak because he knew it was coming. And to bring your kids up and use them as props to shield yourself,
That's
that
what
is
it was.
so
It was
greasy.
like, oh, look over here.
So
look
where's
over
your
here.
double standard on that? You're like, screw the guys in the front row yelling at him for 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know what?
You got to give it to Sirianni for that one.
That was a clown move, bro.
Yes, clown question and clown move, bro.
Who was that giving it to him, the clown in the States? I think it was
Well, it was
Was it
Bryce
Steve-
Harper. That was the original clown question,
That was
bro,
in
if that's
Toronto.
what you're talking
It was
about.
like clown question.
Yeah, that's right.
But, this one was obviously a different story altogether. Then you got Jerry Jones going on the radio
Well,
down
that
there trying to
was
get people
ridiculous.
fired for asking questions.
Holy
But
Jerry,
he actually
you got to
threatened
step
them.
away.
Yeah.
His kids got to get him and get him on the chopper and drop him off on an island and just say you got to leave.
Do you know how crazy it would be if a new owner, Josh Harris, the new owner of the Washington Commanders, billionaire, bought the team and said, I'm the GM now? Like what modern society would do to that, like how we would react to it. He bought the team in, what did he buy it in 89? And he's just been the guy who runs the operation. Like the owner, he's 82 years old. He's the owner, and he gets to make decisions on who's the coach, who's the quarterback, who we're paying, who we're drafting, who we're trading. And I guess, that's the beauty of being the owner. You got that kind of money. You can do whatever you want. But it is absolutely absurd that guy's an owner and he's the GM of the team.
It's crazy,
Like,
though.
it's absurd.
He actually almost gave the Strutty line, like, I'm going to buy this bar and fire the bouncers.
Right.
Like, he was basically saying, I will buy this radio station and you won't have a job. Because he said, what did he say? I will pick who's going to interview me from now on.
I don't need you guys asking me what I've done wrong. Basically, who do you think you are? How dare you ask me? Meanwhile, he can't. He's accepting all the invitations. He can't wait to speak to the media.
He's behaving like an 82-year-old guy who's absolutely sauced on brown liquor, which may not be far from the truth.
It's a really tough scene for him. All right, here's Mike Johnson, our TSN Hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. What's happening, Johnny?
I kind of like the fact that an owner is just being belligerent. Like, it's my money, my team.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever the hell I want. Like, we always joke when we talk about teams, like, well, the owner could do whatever he wants. It's his team, but they don't because they're not silly enough to think that they are the foremost experts just because they happen to have the most money in some other field to run a basketball, baseball, football, hockey operation. But I don't know. I guess he's done it for so long and they had some success. And you can't argue with the business plan he's had because the Cowboys are worth the most money of any franchise in the world, any sports franchise.
Yep.
So he's clearly done that part right. But, yeah, it feels like he's at the end of the line. And there is an age component to it. Like, my dad is around the same age as that guy. I love my dad, still sharp enough, but I wouldn't want him running a multi-billion-dollar operation. So there is part of it, right?
Well, you make a good point about, like, you kind of have to respect that this guy actually doesn't run from anything, and he's like, I'm just doing it this way, and I'm going to do interviews.
It doesn't take away from the idea that it's nonsense.
It's nonsense, and it's buffoonery, and if you're a fan of that team, and there's so many people that are, I don't see how you could possibly feel good about where this is going. Like, it's impossible to feel that way. But he
owned Hayes, right? Wasn't it like 3 weeks ago? He said, I'd hire someone else if there was anyone else in the world who could do the job as well as I could.
Which, again, is ridiculous. Those are the best comments.
The foremost expert in the world
is Jerry Jones.
at football operations.
Yes.
Whose owner comments are more ridiculous? Those comments or Lloyd Christmas, who said his girlfriend liked his smile, didn't know he was a billionaire. Did you
Mark
see that?
Davis down with the Raiders.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Listen,
loves his
you can't
personality.
fight love. You can't fight love, Noodles.
Yeah,
Yes,
you can,
but
man. Talk to Bill
You're not
Belichick
a
about
romantic,
that.
clearly.
I would love to see. I mean, there's another one of your lists, Hayes. Top 5 owners of a team you'd like to see run it in any sport. Like actually be the GM or coach or you name it.
Well, exactly. Like, could you imagine if in using Toronto as an example, and I guess the ownership might be tough, but if Keith Pelley showed up and said, I'm now the GM of the Leafs.
Larry Tannenbaum.
Larry Tannenbaum, I'm going to do it from here on out. Like, Brad, you're out.
I'm running trade deadline.
Yes.
I got it.
Deadline, I'm in here, and this is how it's going to operate, and this is what I'm making my demands for.
Under my thumb. I got it all covered.
I love that.
Could you imagine?
Oh, people would lose their minds. Rightfully so. And it's just a matter of fact. With, like you said, the most valuable franchise on earth, this guy's running the operation. It's buffoonery. It's bizarro world. Anyway, as for where the Leafs are at, and Keith Pelley, again, is not running the operation. But Brad Treliving is, Brendan Shanahan is, and a lot of their moves over the offseason, it's only 3 games, but they look pretty solid, don't they, Johnny? With Chris Tanev, Oliver Ekman-Larsson's been really, really good. Anthony Stolarz has looked good through 2 starts. Max Pacioretty's been okay. Like, it's early, but pretty good start. Steven Lorentz, exactly.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yes, it's very early. They probably should be 3-0. They should feel good about themselves. And again, I will say preseason doesn't matter, except it kind of does. And other than the first game of preseason, which was the crazy 6-5 with Montreal, Ottawa, whoever it was, they've allowed 2 or fewer goals in every single game. So 5 straight preseason games, 3 straight regular season games. That's a nice run for this team. And the way that they've played and the way that they've given up goals at times over the course of the last several years, the fact that it is sort of becoming the norm that they give up 2 goals, whether it's because there's good goaltending or because they're good defense or likely because it's both, that is different. And that was sort of part of the philosophical change that the team was going under Craig Berube, Trey Living, all of it, different sort of personality, different sort of ways to win. But you're right. I think Tanev has come as advertised. We talked about him. I think Oliver Ekman-Larsson, now you hope that he can sort of sustain the energy and health for 82 games. He is also a little bit older, and he was largely playing on the second, third pair last year, so you don't want to wear him out. But he plays with some edge, carries a heavy stick around the front of the net, and he shoots. Like I know I've often said point shots are not great offensive chances, but they do have a purpose, and he is like the only guy back there who's willing to sort of shoot the puck down to the front of the net. Maybe Connor Timmins would like to try, but he does that. He does that with regularity. He's moved up to the first power play unit in practice a little bit. So, he's making inroads. Yeah, like the fourth line looks better, much, much better. David Kampf playing well. Lorentz has been a revelation. I was joking after his first game. I'm like, he'll never have a game that good again offensively. That's it. Like, that is the pinnacle. He didn't score against Montreal the first game, but he had so many chances. That's it. Then they went out and got 1-1 the next game in Jersey in the first period. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more offense there. So, yeah, it's early, but it's better that things be going well than things not be going well.
Johnny, we fired Joe from the bridge because he posted a board earlier in the show that said he's concerned about Auston Matthews, so we fired him. Jesus. If Mystic Mike was at it tomorrow night and we did the game, wouldn't you predict him to get 9 goals against the LA Kings tomorrow? There's no concern from you, is there?
No, there's no concern. I mean, he's hit 2 posts. He's had lots of shots, like 8 shots the other game. He's had his chances. Now, I will say, fair criticism, he's not been dangerous on the power play because the power play hasn't been dangerous. Fair enough. He hasn't done as much off the rush because the team hasn't been as dangerous or as frequently rushing the puck for chances. That is part of the balancing act with Berube's new system. But he's making so many good plays. He's around the net. He won't, as you said it, right? Everything went right. He probably won't push 70 goals, maybe ever again. Mm-hmm. Maybe ever again. But that's okay. I mean, he still will probably push 50, and he's playing really well on his own end, out there killing penalties, net empty, all these different situations. And the goal, and nobody cares about that, but the goals will come. I'm not worried. Joe, take a break for the day. That's ridiculous.
Wow, it wasn't. Joe shouldn't have been fired.
He's on hiatus.
He's on hiatus.
He's in timeout.
Yes.
Quick follow-up on that. And you mentioned this is where I was going to go about systematic change under Berube. He wants a more straight line, kind of chip and chase. Do you think it takes a little bit for guys like Auston Matthews who are used to, Willie Nylander, guys like that who are used to kind of, creating space, circling back, making, a little bit more plays? Do you think it's taking them a little bit of time to kind of settle in under that? And, this team still looks good, but individually it's a bit of an adjustment systematically from Keefe's systems to Chiefs systems.
It would stand to reason, Noodles, right? Like the fourth liners would adjust to a straight line, dump it in, and hit someone game a lot easier and quicker because that's what they did anyways.
Right.
Like that's where they're predisposed to do, as opposed to the guys at the top of the lineup who had the liberty and freedom and success doing it a slightly different way. Sometimes they dump it in, but, sometimes it was a little bit different. And I think those guys are going to have to work to find the right balance of how do I get open ice, how do I get rush chances while not deviating from the game plan. And I do think right now, those 3 guys specifically, Tavares, I'm not counting him, and he didn't miss a game. But those three guys specifically are erring on the side of being super diligent, super attentive to everything they're supposed to do, not cheating at all. When there's a 50-50 decision, I could probably make a play, or maybe I should just chip it in. I think right now they're electing to largely chip it in to be safe, to show that they're on board. Like, it's out of good intentions that they're showing that they're on board, and I think they'll work their way back from that. They'll go all the way to the edge, maybe dumb it down too much relative to what they can do, and then work their way back to a slightly better balance where they do some things that make them great, but still play the way the coach wants them to play.
Johnny, how would you handle like Joseph Woll getting healthier here? And look, I think the kid's he's a sweetheart of a guy. He seems to believe in all the right things, but is there any way to incorporate a little bit of old school into this where it's like you might have to sit and wait a bit because we got two guys playing well right now, just to kind of add a little bit of, I don't know, marinate on it a little bit?
You know what? Sometimes you go old school, and I'm like, I don't think so. And sometimes you go old school, I'm like, I don't mind that. And I don't mind that. We're like, you know what? We have guys playing well, so we'll be patient.
That's right.
Under the guise of, because we're being careful. But you're not just giving the net back because, you said you're good to go, put me in. Like, no. We got to make you work for it. We got to test you in practice because we can't have you get injured again. Like, he has a predisposition to being injured. That's the reality of his career. I hope it stops, but to this point, it's been the case. So yeah, I'm with you. I would slow play because you want to make sure he's 100% healthy on a sincere level. But then also, if that you have a conversation saying like, we need you to be able to get healthy and play and not leave the team again, and if that means you got to take another week, 2 weeks, whatever, then that's what it's going to take because we have other guys that are doing the job. I don't know how you tap dance around the messaging there, but the theory, the thought behind it, I don't mind it one bit.
I just don't like Johnny, a guy going, well, that game looks kind of good. I'm coming back then. It's like, no, that's Stolarz is playing that game. I don't know. Just a little something where it's like you're going to have to we got some guys playing good, and you're going to have to chew on it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the reality of competition. He's not
exactly
Igor Shesterkin. Like, he doesn't have. How many games has he played in his life, Noodles? Has he played 80? Not even.
Not at the NHL level.
39.
Like not even
39,
40. Yeah. That, 40. So, what are you gonna walk in there and say, how dare you not give me the net the day I wanted? You're not Marty Brodeur. It's like Nick Roberts saying, how am I not on the first power play unit? Because you're not. Like, you don't get to say that, and he doesn't get to say it either. So, you got to work to get it back, work to get healthy, and work to show yourself and the team and the organization that you can stay healthy and play at a high level, which I'm sure he will. He just might have to make sure that he's all the way back.
With Mike Johnson, Something to Chew On, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice cold beers, always dialed in for game time. Hustle on your local BP tonight. We've been asking online, what is the biggest surprise to start the hockey season in the province of Alberta? Oilers 0-3, Flames 3-0. How would you answer that?
Oilers 3 goals while being 0-3.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think, not just that they're 0-3. That can happen. It happened to them last year, basically. But the way they've looked, the way they played, the lack of sort of punch. You thought, well, maybe we know they have a hole on defense. That second pair, Ty Emberson, he's trying to work through it. Darnell Nurse coming off an injury. That might not be great. But you thought they're going to score. They're going to score on the power play. They added Arvidsson. They added Skinner. Draisaitl's re-signed. McDavid's had a summer, presumably, of being healthy and training. Like, that wouldn't be the issue. So to me, Calgary's played hard. Every team in the league with good goaltending can win 3 games in a row. But Edmonton, losing 3, fine. Losing 3, scoring 1 per, and looking sort of slow and not as engaged as they want. I think that I've heard it phrased many different ways for the Oilers. Did you say it yesterday, Hayes? They look like they're trying to get over a bad breakup, but they're not quite there yet.
Yep.
It looks like their hearts are still left in Florida. They haven't maybe turned the page into the new year. They're still feeling that hurt, and they're going to have to get there. I'm assuming they will. a lot of us picked them to win the Stanley Cup here. I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
But I didn't think they'd look like this. Whatever the record was going to be to start the season, I didn't think they'd look like this. And that part is surprising and a wee bit concerning. Because one other part we talked about the Oilers, Hayes, they lost speed. All the way, McLeod, even Broberg skated well relatively on the back end. They look slower. Now, maybe that's part of it. They're not playing fast, but part of it because they physically don't have players who can skate as fast. And that's going to be something that we have to watch throughout the year.
They look disinterested.
Yeah, but like, what's the line then when it does become concerning? Like 3 games, we're all saying, whatever, don't worry about it. Like what? Because everyone's using last year's comparison.
Exactly, that's dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
We're fine.
A week from now, they're going to have
the Stanley Cup. Yes, I know.
A week from now, they're going to be 500, and people won't be.
Probably will, Noodles. But if they're not, like what you're. I understand why everyone's bullish. But what is it going to be for you? Like, give me the date or give me the amount of games where you say, actually, wait a minute, this is kind of weird. Is there a date in mind or a number of games, or are you just
end of October, 2-8, and looking disinterested the whole time?
Okay, that's your line.
Well, yeah, something like that.
All right.
Yeah. So
Noodles, do you have a line?
2 weeks away, right?
No, I would say I don't have a line because I'm going to judge them by their top players. If their top players are playing
Noodles,
well,
you got to give Hayes a line. That's what he's wanting. He wants one. He wants one. He wants a line where you get concerned.
Not giving us a line. All right.
I'm not giving a line. My point is if McDavid has 2 points in 9 games and Draisaitl, like I'm looking at their top players not playing well. I don't, that's the line. Like if you watch the games, you're like, okay, if they're not playing, like McDavid is going to the neutral zone and stick handling it into coverage. Like that's not McDavid. Draisaitl is pulling up and he's missing passes. He's falling down where nobody's there. Like that's who I'm watching. Like the line is if they get their act together and they're still losing, that's when I go, that's concerning. So I don't know, Brian. I don't know that. I don't know what the line is. If my line is if the top line, like Hyman, has missed chances, he missed posts, missed open nets, that type of stuff. If they're still doing that a month from now, then you're concerned. But I look at it as I'm not so worried as to points or wins and losses. I'm looking at their top players not playing well. And if they're still not playing well a couple weeks from now, then I'm concerned. Because that's how teams win.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Really. I think that's accurate. And
I can't give you a record. I apologize.
No,
it
doesn't
probably
really
the same
matter,
thing as Johnny. 2-8.
Well, Hazy, what's
10.
your line, Big Cat?
Yeah,
I think what are you going to say this weekend?
Well, no, I'm probably going to go a little bit like last year it was 12 games. Right, like the 12th, I think the 11th game was technically in San Jose when they lost, but we kept referencing 12 games. First 12 games, they were dead last. First 12 games, they had done this. That's when they fired Woodcroft. It feels like anything beyond that 12-game mark, if it's still ugly, something's up. Like that's my line, I guess. So they're still 9 games away, and they could be 9-3, and we're all going to look back on this and say this is stupid, or they're 6-6, and it's all good, but. For the evaluation of the team, it's so easy to say, well, look what happened last year, and they still made it to a cup final. Okay.
That was last year.
That's the thing. It's just a dangerous game to do that.
I'm pretty sure everybody around there, including in the locker room, if they stink the joint out against Philly and then they're awful on the weekend, they're going to be saying, guys, how many times are we going to say we got to smarten up? Not that it'll be complete panic and they're firing a coach, but they'll be like, how many times are we going to come in the locker room and say, okay, they did it in training camp and they did it in 3 games. It's like, that's enough. Like, the joke's over.
I wonder if, again, preseason is nothing, but they looked like this in preseason. They didn't really ever show a spark in preseason. Like, this is almost predictable if you would have watched them play in the exhibition games because they look like this. And I wonder if I don't know. I mean, it's just strange given all that's gone on there and how much talent they have, but they haven't barely even had a moment, let alone a whole game or whatever. Like they've barely had stretches where like, oh, there it is. There's a glimpse of what they are. It's just not there right now.
I'd give them the benefit of the doubt, and they wouldn't be skating it out of their systems. They'd be staying at home and hardly practice and just playing games. If anyone that you've been around Tampa Bay's teams, like they've had the ability. They played a lot of hockey in those cup years, going to all those fun. They just played games. Like they would go to the rink and do video. They weren't like grinding it out at practice, and I think the players need it. And that's probably what if anybody thinks the Oilers need to bag skate it out of themselves or system it out of themselves, they need rest. They need to get energized. They need to find something.
You know what they need to do is compete and play with emotion. Because the teams that are playing them,
if you're rested, you can do that.
Well, if you actually pull your head out of your ass, you can do it too. Because that's the reality of it is.
You could stick your head up a bull's ass.
I knew you were going to do it. But you know what I mean. But,
only once.
But
Shame on you.
the point being is, you can read all your press clippings and go, you know what? The team at the other side, like Calgary, they're in a rebuild, so give us the 2 points tonight. Yep. And you know what Calgary does?
We'll take it.
They came to play the other night.
Good for them.
They came. And the night before, Chicago's like, oh, you know what? Oh, they're a rebuild. They're not that good. Well, Chicago's like, we're going to show up in a back-to-back, and we're going to play hard.
Yep.
You know, that's the thing. Nothing's handed to you in this league, so don't be entitled. Go out and work your ass off. Like, that's what you get paid for.
That's what seems very clear right now, and especially the opponents. Like, Winnipeg opening night's a different story. They're a good team. And Winnipeg showed up, and they're like, this is a new season, and we're ready to play. And they smacked them around. But Calgary, Chicago, that's probably Edmonton thinking, all right, we'll get our 2 points and move on here.
Right.
It didn't happen. And full credit to Calgary, man. Like, they go into Vancouver and win. They go into Edmonton and win. And they're scoring goals. Jonathan Huberdeau looks pretty good. Shout out to Johnny South Beach, Anthony Mantha.
Johnny South Beach.
He's rolling along.
Yep.
Yeah, they got all kinds of guys scoring there. But, just one more thought on the Edmonton Oilers. Like, how often do you watch 3 games and just say Connor McDavid wasn't any good?
That's
maybe never in his pro career.
Maybe never. And that's the standard he set, and I think that's a compliment more than a criticism.
Right.
That's how good he is.
That's how good he is. But that's kind of what he looked like at the first few games. Like he looks just sort of average, which is I can't even barely say it, but that's how he's looked, which is so strange.
Yep. Well, he's the guy that's got to do it. Like you talked about the pace of the team. You look so much faster when he's just in the mood. Everything changes. The whole complexion of the team when he decides I'm playing and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And that's going to happen, and I'm sure it'll happen soon. That's going to be fun to watch. But through 3 games, it hasn't looked good. All right, Johnny, we'll leave it there. We'll do it again later in the week.
All right, fellas. Have a good night.
There's Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline.
You got to get that. Joe from the Bridge has got to get the Tommy Boy
the
butcher statement.
We'll get the butcher. We'll figure that out. Cameron Maybin coming up. Chris Johnston still to come more on his take on the Leafs. What happens with Joseph Woll in the future? Matthews is the captain. What's the buzz like around the team? Does it feel any different? Willie was off the ice today. He was sick. Tavares was sick over the weekend. That sucked for Tavares. He missed opening night. But he was obviously really fighting it. And it sounds like Nylander's in a similar position now. Not sure if he will play tomorrow. And Confirm or Deny coming up in about an hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Confirm or Deny coming up in about an hour. Al's brother's got another pair of Leaf tickets, and he's somewhere in the city. We'll catch his first clue coming up between now and 7 o'clock. Last week he was at Ted Reeve Arena. And if he won those tickets, he got to see the Leafs win on Saturday night, right?
Yep.
And Pitt, they look okay. Not great. Like, they really don't look great.
They win 6-3 or lose 6-3.
They looked good last night, I'll tell you. I thought they looked pretty good, like, watching them. But I didn't think they looked very good against the Leafs.
No, they didn't. I don't know, man. They look kind of like defensively, they're not great. They'll be in the mix. Yeah. Like, if they got in, it would not be shocking. Like, it's not as if I think anyone anticipates they're going to be hovering around 70 points or something like that. They're going to be in the mix, but they need some help in terms of, really pushing over the top. So more on that in about a half an hour. Confirm or Deny still to come later this afternoon. Game 2 of the ALCS tonight. And the Yankees obviously up 1-0. Any team that goes up 2-0 in any of these series have a massive advantage, needless to say. That's why the Mets win last night was so significant. And it was a pretty cool game. Grand slam early in that game by the Mets. They held on for dear life. They're going back east, I guess, tied 1-1. And to chat about it, we're joined now by longtime MLBer. He's played in New York. He's played all over the place. He's been on the show before. We loved having him on. It's great to have him back. Here is Cameron Maybin. What's up, Cameron?
What's going on, fellas? I appreciate you having me on. I enjoyed my first time on the show, and I'm looking forward to talking some more baseball, man.
Yes. Well, we had a blast with you, man. And last night it was obviously a big win by the Mets. And I'm curious where you stand on that series in particular, because the Dodgers, they have so much hype. Both these rosters are really expensive. There's tons of superstar talent. But the Mets have that vibe to them where they just feel like they're destined to get to the World Series and possibly win it. Do you believe in that type of mojo that the Mets are bringing to the table right now?
I do. I really do believe in that type of mojo, and for a few reasons. One is, throughout this year, they were riddled with injuries early on and throughout the season, the first half. A lot of things not going their way. But one thing that I saw, and I looked at it through a lens of experience, I was a part of that Yankees team in 2019 where Carlos Mendoza was on that bench. And Mendy was a guy that just was always, positive, always was a guy who understood how to get the best out of players, right? Not so much talking about the X's and O's, but sometimes I think it's just as important to understand how to get the best out of men, right? Are you a leader of men without knowing the X's and O's? And I say Pat Murphy's a guy like that. The guys, when they show up to the park, they truly want to go get a W for that skipper. And Carlos Mendoza, with all that they've been through, all of that adversity, I saw a team that really, truly wanted to go out and win, not only for the city, but for that manager. And that means a lot. And sometimes those things, there are no stats for those type of characteristics. So when I watch what they're doing now, when I watch the selfless at-bats that they're having, especially from young guys, just trying to pass the baton and just trying to do whatever it takes to win, like you said, holding on for dear life for that win yesterday, but it was a team effort. It was a great win. And I just think right now they're playing with that mojo. I think, and ironically, here the Dodgers are going back to New York where it kind of started for the Mets. I don't know, you go back when the Dodgers went in the Citi Field and swept those guys, and Francisco Lindor had a team meeting, and all of a sudden things started to turn around. So here we are. The Mets haven't lost, I think, at home since damn near September. So I like what they're doing right now. I picked them in 6, and it's going to be a fun series.
What about the Yanks road? Like, if they can make quick work of Cleveland, and I know Cleveland's going to come back and have something to say, but you look at that roadmap to possibly the World Series compared to the Mets, who have had a grind dealing with the Phillies, and now the Dodgers, it's like the Yankees have got to be saying, like, let's take care of biz here, and that's quite a path. I think Jeter or A-Rod was talking about it on TV yesterday. Like, they didn't say easy, but that's quite a path to a World Series. KC and Cleveland.
Yeah, I think if you had to script it, if you were the Yankees and you're able to script the path that you would want to have to possibly get to the World Series, I think you would have wrote it just like it's being written right now.
Oh yeah,
and that's no slight against the Kansas City Royals, who to me struggled to get into the playoffs down the stretch. They were not really playing great baseball, if you ask me. The Guardians, who are in a extremely, I think the Central. The AL Central is one of the weaker divisions in baseball, and that's, again, no disrespect. It's just my baseball eye, just me being an honest evaluator. I think the Yankees would have said, yeah, we'll take our chances. And I think the thing that I look at the most is the thing that happened in the Yankees' favor more than anything was the Detroit Tigers taking that game to five games and making the Guardians bullpen throw some taxing innings, right? And I gave them a lot of credit last night. Avila, who came in, who kind of kept them right there, he deserves a lot of credit, because last night I thought, man, if they can get through this guy, in the third of an inning and continue to get into that bullpen, now the Guardians are in real trouble. And I still think they're in trouble because they have a lot of young arms. And I think, you talk about how dominant they've been, but there's a such thing, and I've seen it, bullpens get taxed. And right now, going up against Garrett Cole, the selfless at-bats that the Yankees are having, this postseason has been the one few postseasons where it seems like they're not swinging for the fence. Yes, that's their game, but they're having quality at-bats. They're putting team at-bats on the pitchers to get to that bullpen, attack the bullpen. So these are about the most quality at-bats that I've seen them have, and I think you're right. I think if you could script the pass, this is exactly the script that they would have wrote for themselves.
Talking about script, if the league had a script of who they'd like in the final, do you think it would be the Dodgers and the Yankees? It would be that simple?
I would see. That's a great question, right? Because to me, I know we love Shohei Ohtani. I know it's Hollywood, but in my eyes, as a baseball fan, with all that's been going on this year, I want to see a Subway Series. I think a Subway Series is the best for baseball. I think, personally, I don't want to take anything away from the Dodgers. Dave Roberts is a mentor of mine, but I think on paper, I think the Mets and the Yankees are the two best teams left also. When you look at starting rotation, when you look at bullpen, when you look at guys on the roster, I know Shohei's special. I know Freddie Freeman is maybe the best first baseman we've seen in the last 10 years. You got Mookie Betts. But after that, Teoscar Hernandez has played a lot of heroics for the Dodgers. But after that, I think the Mets have the better roster. And then you look at the Yankees lineup, and I think when you look at where they are with their rotation and their bullpen, they're in better shape. Their bullpen has been outstanding this postseason. So for me, if I was baseball, I know we love Ohtani and I know we love the nostalgia around what he's done this year, but I think it would be an incredible Subway Series, World Series if that was to happen.
Yeah, I don't think you can miss here. Again, if you're in Cleveland, you're like, come on, man, throw us into the mix here. It's only 1-0. Like maybe the Guardians end up winning this thing. We're chatting with Cameron Maybin. The difference between Judge in the regular season and the postseason has been exposed here. And the same thing with Giancarlo Stanton, where Stanton is just clearly he's a big game player, man. He matches up with some of the all-time great playoff performers. And he did it again last night. He did it in the DS. And you look at Judge is he's not doing anything at the plate. Like what's he got? 2 hits, not hitting for any power, no slugging, no home runs. Again, it hasn't burned them because they're up 1-0 in the championship series. But what is your read on why Judge is performing the way he's performing in the playoffs, and why is Stanton coming alive the way that he's coming alive?
Well, to speak on Judge, AJ first, I watched a lot of Yankees games. I watched pretty much every playoff game and, trying to figure out what it is. And one thing I know immediately watching each and every game this postseason, it's nothing mechanically. One thing we watched Aaron Judge do this past year and throughout the past few years, each and every year he's controlled the strike zone extremely well to be such a big guy, to be a guy that's known for his power. And he showed that he can hit for average. And one thing that I've seen throughout this postseason is a guy that's he seems to be pressing, wanting to get that big hit, wanting to be the guy that carries the team. And to me, he's chasing more than I've seen him chase in a long time. I think it's simple as, these guys still have a mindset of we don't want Aaron Judge to beat us. So these pitchers are doing a lot of nibbling against Judge. And one thing we haven't seen him do is chase. He's been so great at laying off the tough slider down the way, laying off the pitch at the bottom of the zone and getting the pitch in the middle, mistake, and not missing it. And right now what I'm seeing is a guy who looks like he's pressing. He's a little bit in between the fastball and the breaking ball. But for me, he's not getting pitches that he can drive. He's swinging at pitches on the outer edges and off the plate. So I think if he just, has a few at-bats and sacrifices a few at-bats, why you have the supporting cast do what they're doing, meaning sacrifice a few at-bats and go, hey, I'm looking middle. I'm trying to get the ball close to me. I'm trying to get something elevated that I can drive center of the field. I think he'll be right back on track. I liked his at-bats last night. They were a step closer in the right direction. But I think, and then when you talk about Giancarlo Stanton, Big G was my roommate when he was Mike Stanton, so I still call him Mike when I text him. And for me, I think he's just I think you're watching a guy that has, throughout his career, he elevated the bar so high, and then when he got to New York and he hasn't repeated that MVP, Miami Mike that we saw, I think you've seen a guy that's built up calluses and a real layer of armor to deal with these type of situations, right? He's used to being booed during the regular season.
Do you remember last year, Cameron? They hated his guts. Cashman was calling him out. He couldn't even run. He was walking the bases.
Yeah, it was Forrest Gump.
Cash went out and said, hey, we pretty much can count on being hurt. Like, just kind of throwing a guy out of the bus. You know what I mean? And even the fans, it's like, he can't win from losing. So I think you've got a guy who just built up a layer of armor, resilient armor, who's built for these type of moments, right? Where everything hasn't been great. It hasn't been a smooth road. So when you're built for that, you're ready and prepared for these moments. And I think that's a guy we say water off a duck's back. That is Giancarlo Stanton. I think he's handled New York as much as any superstar or athlete that's had a high amount of pressure handle it as you can, the best that you can. I think he's been a consummate professional. And you're seeing it show up, man. And you're seeing these guys lean on him. And then you talk about a guy not chasing, getting pitches in the zone. And I continue to say, every time he comes up to the plate this postseason at home, all those Yankee fans are going to be doing is giving him a standing ovation every single at bat.
No kidding.
It's time to switch it up. It's time to read the room, have some feel some appreciation, because even in the past, when these guys had a chance in the playoffs, it was on the back of Giancarlo Stanton carrying the team, and he's continued to do it once again. So it's special, and I'm super happy for him.
Yeah, he's been amazing. And, like, what's the reaction in the room when a teammate shows up and goes, I'm not Mike anymore, I'm Giancarlo? The boys just say, we don't accept that?
I just thought it sounded sexier. I'm like, you know what? If I was 6'6" and looked like The Rock, I might change my name, but my middle name is Keith, so it doesn't sound as sexy as Giancarlo.
I like it. Oh, man. Did you see that snake in the dugout at Dodger Stadium last night, Cameron? Like, was
that a bad omen or a good omen?
I'm not sure, man. I don't think it's a good one.
I'm from a little hippie town, right, where we believe in karma and juju and energy, and I'm going, I guess the best way you could go is at least it was a garden snake.
Right.
I guess the most deadly snake, I guess, that could be in your dugout. But I believe in karma. I believe in energy.
Okay.
I said it with the Phillies. I thought the Phillies were going to lose because of the way they treated Nick Castellanos. I thought there was no feel from the fans. Cheering for a guy taking a ball has to feel. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The Dodgers fans, they got past San Diego, but I thought it was really unprofessional, them throwing stuff on the field. And then snakes show up in dugout. I believe in signs, okay?
All right.
So I'm sticking with my pick. I'm picking the Mets in 6 and the Yankees in 5. So we're going to get a Subway Series.
I love it. He is a longtime MLBer. You see him on the MLB Network and Foul Territory contributor as well, Cameron Maybin. Always great catching up with you, Cameron. We appreciate you doing that, and enjoy the games tonight. We'll do it again in the future. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, guys. And just want to say I am no longer on MLB Network.
Okay,
so
my bad.
Spread the word. I'm for hire. I love talking the game. It's my passion, and I appreciate you guys having me on. So
we got it.
Territory fam, follow that FT Foul Territory. It's a great show, but I appreciate you guys as usual.
You got it, man. We'll pump your tires up here. We'll do our best for you. We appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
All right, fellas. Thank you.
There's Cameron Maybin. My bad. Threw out a plug at the end. Wasn't a necessary plug. But I'm glad he made sure to stay on top of that. We got to get Cameron Maybin on ESPN or something, man. That guy's unbelievable.
He's great.
So much fun to talk to.
One of those two guys behind the glasses era? Never know.
Hey, listen, I'm just Ron Burgundy here, man. I'm reading a sheet, but that's on me. I should know that, and it's all good.
Never know.
You never know. I love how he still texts Giancarlo Stanton and calls him Mike. Like, he's like, I'm not letting you be Giancarlo anymore.
But hang on a sec. Are you saying, I don't want to sound like an idiot, was his name Mike before?
When he broke into the league, he was known as Mike Stanton.
Are you serious? I thought Mike Stanton was a guy with a mustache that played with the Phillies or something.
His name is Giancarlo Cruz Michael Stanton, and he was known as Mike Stanton. And then, a few years into his career, he said, screw that, I'm Giancarlo. I want to
Was that like a Miami vibe or something?
I'm not sure what happened. I don't recall. Like, he's an L.A. guy, right? He's from L.A.
Yeah,
he does not look like Mike Stanton. Mike Stanton looks like a guy with a half-pro barrel, a handlebar red mustache.
Yes. Yeah. That has a motorcycle.
And a skullet.
Yeah.
This guy looks like Giancarlo Stanton.
It's the perfect name because, like he said, he looks like The Rock. He's 6'7". He's cut. Yeah. He's Giancarlo. I think that's probably what happened. Someone went to him and said, dude, you got to lose Mike. It can't be Mike
not
Stanton.
a Mike. You're not
he was
a Mike.
dating a girl or something probably, and she's like, you're Giancarlo.
You're Giancarlo.
Sure.
I think he was in a 100%. Nightclub in Miami, and someone said, what's your name? And he said, Giancarlo.
Yeah. I think so,
didn't
too.
throw a mic out to that.
100%.
I agree. Yeah, Mike Stanton, you have to wait in the back of the line. Giancarlo Stanton, VIP, come on in.
Exactly.
All right. Chris Johnston and Confirm or Deny still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, we'll get to an Al's Brothers clue here momentarily.
Can't give it away in the second clue this time.
No, it's got to be tougher clues.
Well, it's got to be
tougher
like
clues.
you really got to drill down on something.
Yeah.
Like the second day, everyone knew what it was.
I had so many people stopping me exactly by day 2, and then by the end of the week, they're like, it was Ted Reeve. We all knew it was Ted Reeve.
Yes.
And listen, it was the first week. Al's brother's a busy guy. Maybe that's all he could find, and he could only muster up so much.
There might have been some people behind the scenes that could have done a better job, too.
Well, who knows? I mean, I think
Exhibit A, Doogie again.
No,
it's not
Doogie. Not Doogie.
There was somebody else that
not
we
Doogie.
know.
But, Al's brother's coming up here in a moment. And I was talking about Al's brother this morning. I got to get back in the gym. I've been struggling. You've inspired me, You keep saying you got to stay in there. I was at a Planet Fitness this morning, and I wore my Hazenbro hat, which is generally a ridiculous move. Like, admittedly, a very obnoxious move.
Well, you're asking for it.
And I got a few different guys just point and just give me like the thumbs up, like keep rolling. It was very inspiring. People are really starting to get behind the fact that Hazenbro, these just plucky underdogs up against professional athletes, are back in the mix. And like Luke's been really quiet. Like Luke is really, really quiet. And we're back to even, Noodles. Do you understand this?
It was +8.
Yes.
You're back. You fought
we
back.
We have fought back in 2 weeks. We're back to even. We went 5-1 this week, 5-1 last week. And FanDuel's got us, I think, as a heavy favorite to smoke these clowns.
Well, we're going straight killer mode because we've been favoring, Aaron Rodgers is going to do this.
Yes.
And more of that.
You can't have faith in the Jets, man.
Dude,
I'll
what are you never touch that again. They're a joke show. I don't care. Adam's coming in or not. Never again.
I agree. All right, Hour 3 coming up. CJ will join us. Confirm or deny still to come as well in our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.